This is the story of Moses, a man chosen by God to lead his people from darkness into light, from bondage into freedom. It's a story of courage, faith, and redemption. So stop scrolling and let's dive in. Born into a land of oppression, Moses was born at a time when Pharaoh had ordered every Hebrew baby boy to be killed. His mother, desperate to save her son, crafted a basket, waterproofed it, and placed baby Moses in the Nile River, praying that God would provide what she could not. And God did. Pharaoh's own daughter found him floating in the river and raised him as her own. Moses grew up with privilege, but also with a heart that yearned for justice. As Moses grew older, he could no longer ignore the suffering of his people, the Hebrews who were enslaved and beaten by the Egyptians. One day, overcome by anger, Moses killed an Egyptian overseer who was beating a Hebrew man. Fearful and ashamed, Moses fled to the wilderness, leaving behind the only home he had ever known. For years, he lived as a shepherd. It wasn't the life he imagined for himself, but while tending sheep on Mount Horeb, everything changed. Moses encountered a bush that burned yet was not consumed. From within the flames, the voice of God called his name. "Moses, Moses," the voice said. Moses replied, "Here I am." God told Moses to return to Egypt and lead his people out of slavery. Initially, Moses was reluctant. He argued with God, questioning his ability and fearing he wasn't the right man for the task. But God assured him, saying, "I will be with you." Giving Moses signs, including turning his staff into a serpent, God demonstrated his power. Still apprehensive, Moses accepted the call. When Moses returned to Egypt, he confronted Pharaoh, one of the most powerful men on earth, urging him to set the Hebrews free. Pharaoh's heart was hardened, and he refused. What followed were a series of plagues sent by God through Moses. The water of the Nile turned to blood, frogs infested the land, gnats and locusts swept through, and darkness fell over Egypt. Plague after plague, Pharaoh refused to release the Hebrews until the 10th, the most devastating. It was the night of Passover, when the firstborn of every Egyptian household perished. Devastated and broken, Pharaoh finally let the Hebrews go. With Moses leading them, they embarked on a journey to the Promised Land. However, Pharaoh soon changed his mind and pursued them with his army. That's when one of the Bible's most famous miracles occurred. At the Red Sea, with Pharaoh's army closing in, God parted the waters through Moses. The Hebrews walked through on dry ground, and the waters crashed back down on the pursuing Egyptians, ensuring their safety. But the journey didn't end there. Freed from slavery, the Hebrews wandered the desert, struggling with doubts and hardships, often wondering if freedom was worth the cost. On Mount Sinai, God gave Moses the 10 Commandments, a set of divine laws to guide his people. These commandments were a covenant, a reminder of God's promises and his expectations. Moses' story is a testament to how God uses imperfect people to fulfill his perfect plan. Once a stuttering shepherd who doubted himself, Moses became a leader, mediator, lawgiver, and a friend of God. Through him, God showed us the power of faith and obedience. So, what can we learn from Moses' story? That it's not about where you start, but where God can take you. That no matter how lost, broken, or inadequate you feel, God can and will use you for a greater purpose. If he could transform Moses' life, imagine what he can do with yours. Remember this: trust God with your story, and he'll turn it into something extraordinary. Our Bible, never Jesus. Our God, Jews, Christianity, faith.